Hey, what's going on, YouTubers and Facebookers, people alike? This is Clay with Clay's AC and Auto Repair, and this is Clay Motion here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. If this video is helpful, please like, send me your nice comments, but most of all, subscribe and click the notification box. Share my videos with other people. What we're going to do today is we're going to work on a 2003 Toyota Sequoia. Now, this is one of those situations that I always talk about in all my videos. You can't break what's already broken. You're not going to make this situation worse. The only thing you can do is make it better. I'm not certain that this is going to work, but I'm going to explain some stuff to you that's definitely going to be helpful in the future. And this pretty much covers a lot of vehicles that have this same system. Most vehicles, their transmission is cooled through the bottom of the radiator, and a lot of times they'll have they'll have a transmission cooler as well, but the fluid actually runs through the bottom of the radiator. And in this situation, what we're dealing with is a transmission. I don't know if you can see that, but it's not supposed to be pink. Transmission fluid is kind of red, but you can definitely see there's water in there. And what actually happened is at the bottom of the radiator there's a tank just like this one, and it has two hoses that come into it. Your transmission fluid runs into there, runs down that, goes back around, comes up, runs into the transmission cooler right here, and goes back through. This video is super informative, so I recommend you watch the whole thing. And that's some really good information there. Nissans have this, Toyotas have it. I don't see a lot of makers that if they're going to put a transmission cooler on, that they'll have it run through the tank. You know, General Motors won't have it have an aftermarket cooler like there, but if you own a vehicle that it has it ran through the radiator, save yourself some trouble. Buy a $50 transmission cooler, eliminate that. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the lower radiator connection for the transmission. We're going to pump new fluid in and let it go down into a bucket underneath it, and we're going to just keep on putting transmission fluid in there. I probably said coolant, who knows. I get jabberjawed holding the camera thinking about what I got to say. But anyways, so we're going to pump all the transmission fluid into a bucket, and when it starts coming out clean and clear, then that transmission flush is done. They have transmission machines. We own one, but we're not going to do it that way because I want you to be able to do this at home. Don't get super technical on me, all you mechanics that watch this video. These are made for people at home, and I do this for the people. You know, I don't do it to trying to save them having to pay you $105 an hour to have this done. And it is relatively simple to do. Now, this transmission is shifting hard, okay, which is actually a good thing in some ways because it's shifting hard. So that means that it's contaminated. It's going through the solenoids. Now, you should probably, if you were at home, you're going to want to drop the transmission pan, pull out the filter, replace it after you do the flush, okay? After you get the contaminants out of it, which is the water. We're going to actually block off the bottom of the radiator, both sides, and all that's going to happen is that coolant that's seeping into that tank. We don't have a leaking tank. We have a tank that leaks from the inside. So that coolant's just going to run through there. Not a big deal. Even if there was a little bit of transmission fluid in the coolant, it's not going to really hurt it. If there's a lot in it, we're going to change that out too, which I really can't tell by looking in here. So I'm going to take a look because the customer wants a transmission changed as well. I don't know if they have, there's a lot of tranny fluid inside the coolant, so we're going to change that out as well. So we're going to do that. I'm just going to show you the procedures and try to be real quick about it other than this explanation. I hope it's helpful. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is remove the splash shield here, 12mm bolts. Pretty self-explanatory. It looks like there's about 5 or 6 of them. There's some back here up inside these recessed holes. Okay, so now that we've got the dust cover heat shield, or the shield off there, skid plate, we're going to remove these two lines and we're going to connect them together. And the reason that we're going to do that is because in this situation, I think we're going to end up plugging off the bottom portion of the radiator because we don't have any radiator leaks So what we're going to do is we're going to plug off the lines, and we're going to do away with this anyways, and we'll make sure that we plug these off once we've completed our task, and you know, we get our transmission fluid changed. We'll just go ahead and plug that off there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pull our clips back, and then once we get our clip back, we can just take our pliers, put it on the hose, spin it a little bit, and then break the end of the fitting off there. Nice. So as you can see, I took the clip back and tried pulling them back like that, and I was going to take off this hose. This is my return hose, so I was going to take Jesus, because of that stuff being there, sorry. So I was going to take this return hose and put it on here, so we're just flushing through the radiator. Now we're definitely probably going to end up having to change the radiator, or we're going to just sit there and leak coolant, I'm imagining, seeing as how it's leaking coolant out of there. But maybe we'll be able to fix that or replace the radiator. Okay, so now we got the one hose removed right there. We're going to take this hose and put it right here, so that'll eliminate the bottom of our reservoir right here. So now we've got our line switched. We're going to set our drain pan on something to elevate it a little bit, and I'm going to have an assistant Jeff is going to help me flush this thing out. We'll show you that here in a second. Okay, so we got the assistant helping us. Let me tell you something. It'll make it easier for you if you have an assistant. We're going to wait for the transmission fluid to not be milkshake colored anymore, and I kind of, you know, it's not as powerful as it normally is, so the pump in this is okay, but it's getting a little bit weak. But this has about 236,000 miles on it, so it's kind of expected. We're trying to do this as a preventative measure of changing the transmission, and it's already broken, so we can't break it anymore, so we might as well at least try to do something. As he pumps that through there, it should get clearer here in a minute, and I'll come back and show you that. My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. They're like, I'll treat you, but I have to charge, blah, blah, blah. So it's been about, we put about a gallon of transmission fluid in there. It's not looking much better, so we're gonna keep going. So getting a little bit redder. We've dumped 3 gallons through there so far, and about 2 or 3 quarts. So we're gonna need some more training fluid, but you can see it's not the milkshake that it was, but it is getting better, so a little bit more. So not as bad Mary Kay pink anymore. That's Jeff's phrase. We're gonna let it sit for a while, a couple hours, and let the water hopefully drain down to the bottom of the pan so it picks it up and pushes the last bit of it out. Get another couple gallons of transmission fluid to run through this thing. Makes the bill go up a little bit. This stuff's expensive, but it is what it is. So we're gonna finish flushing it out till it comes out looking like transmission fluid. Okay, now that you've let your fluid drain out, you let it run for a couple 30 seconds or so, and you're gonna toss off most of that upper transmission fluid that's in there. Even if it stops coming out, you want to let it sit for about 24 hours. What's going to happen is all your water that's inside your transmission is going to bleed down to the bottom, and that's what we want. Now you got to keep in mind, you want to jack the front of it up, and luckily with this Toyota we actually have a drain plug at the bottom of the transmission. So that's really good stuff right there for us, because then we can just drain it out. You want to keep in mind that we're doing this to try to save the transmission. More than likely, the transmission's no good, because this vehicle has 230,000 miles on it. But if we can get this transmission to last for another couple months, even if it shifts a little bit hard, and eliminate the possibility of more coolant getting into the transmission fluid, we might save it for a while. I mean, this is an expensive transmission. Vehicle drives really good, but obviously his transmission's a problem. So we let that drain for 24 hours. So we got most of our water and our transmission fluid inside our pan. So we want to drain that water out of there. And then hopefully we're good enough to put some new fluid in it. And I'm going to give you an explanation and kind of show you, hopefully if I can find the part, show you why the water being in there, what it actually harms it. I mean, other than hydraulic fluid being mixed with water, there's the water actually goes across the tops of the circuit boards that are inside there and shorts out the solenoids. And that's why you're experiencing shifting problem if you don't already have a clutch disc problem to begin with. But in this situation, this thing ran and drove fine prior to it getting a bunch of water inside the transmission. So hopefully we can rectify that. So now we took our 14 millimeter drain plug out of our transmission here, and we're gonna let it drain out. Now, if you notice, it looks really nice and looks like good pinkish transmission fluid. You can tell there's water mixed in it, but we've got it at a slight angle, so we should be able to get most of it out. And I'm assuming towards the end, we're gonna see water come down. Now, you remember how our input hose right here went on this side of the radiator? We're gonna do away with that, and we're gonna put it on this hose right here. So we bypass the radiator cooler entirely. And we haven't added our aftermarket cooler yet because we're trying to keep our costs down. I'm not certain if this is gonna work. So obviously this has been sitting for quite a while and it's still dripping out of there. So we're gonna have to replace this radiator, but it is what it is. We can first check and make sure our transmission is still operating properly prior to doing that. The short drive that we're gonna go on is not gonna hurt the engine having transmission fluid inside the coolant. So we're gonna connect that hose right there, fill it up to the proper level with the proper Toyota transmission fluid, and then we're gonna take it for a ride and see what we get. Okay, so we've got our transmission back together and checked it for leaks and filled it up to the proper level. We have a little bit more work to do with the radiator and have to replace the radiator, but that's how you flush your transmission. Now we're going to talk about, just for a second real quick, about what happens when you get water inside your transmission fluid. You know, obviously it's not good for pressure and stuff like that, but one of the main causes and the main contributors is the water that's in there makes like these two connections short out. And what this is a solenoid pack controller. The solenoids are missing out of it. This actually goes to a Mercedes, but it's a pack controller, but most transmissions have these in the top of them, and the Toyota is no different. You know, it varies from design and maker, but you get the idea. Your water is actually, because the water is actually conducting the electricity that should be positive and negatively charged in your transmission, which is causing your solenoids to not act properly. The other step that you could have taken in this situation was remove the filter, remove the valve body, remove this, blow it all out, because water is going to get trapped up underneath these pockets right here, and do that. But that would have been a little bit more work than would have been worth the time for doing. Would have, in my situation here, I don't think the guy wanted to pay me $700 to try to do that and then still need a transmission in the end. So hopefully we got it rectified. I drove it, it shifted, which was great, but I couldn't drive it that far because I got to replace the radiator. So hopefully the video is helpful. Remember, subscribe, click the notification box. You can't break what's already broken. If you want to reach out to me, hit me up on Clay's AC and Auto Repair on the Facebook. I'll be happy to answer your questions if I can. If I can't, I'll at least reply back most of the time. Sometimes I get really super busy, so it might take me a little bit. God bless you guys. Thank you much.